Greetings and welcome to Son of Encouragement Ministries, where God's Word is the center of life. Ladies and gentlemen, your host, Al Webb.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, and welcome to Son of Encouragement Ministries. And I am here today to actually share a word of encouragement and to bring some food for thought. I'm bringing food for thought this morning. As I was sitting here reading, I was actually reading Matthew chapter 8. Matthew chapter 8, from what I was reading, it kind of made me think when I got down to verse 25 and actually 24, and that was the part where when the disciples were in the boat with Jesus and the storm came. And I'm going to tell you why I actually used this reference for my message today. Last week I had briefly talked about the promises of God, but as we follow Christ, and I believe as we are so-called believers, or we supposed to be believers in Jesus, is that our faith is of the utmost importance, that we stand on our faith. And even more importantly, stand on the promises of God. Jesus told us as his children that he would never leave us nor forsake us. But there does come times in our lives when we go through various trials and we be going through things that are very difficult in life, where sometimes it seems like God is not there, or our faith may begin to waver. We may even have doubts, But the funny thing about this chapter, as I was reading chapter 8 of Matthew, is that the disciples had just got done witnessing him perform miracles, casting out demons. And Jesus even went to, I believe it was Peter's house, and healed I believe it was his mother-in-law. He healed the lady, and she had a fever, and Jesus made her well. He cast out demons. And then the multitudes began to come around. The crowds were growing because they had seen all of these miracles being performed, and a lot of people wanted to see Jesus. They wanted to see this man that was performing all of these mighty miracles. So Jesus had instructed the disciples to follow him, and so they got into the boat, and they were on the seas, and a storm came. So once the storm came up, I believe Jesus had dozed off or had went to sleep or something like that. He was not concerned with the storm, so to speak, but the disciples began to be afraid, of what they were witnessing, the storms that came upon the waters as they were crossing over to the other side. And what happened is that they began to panic. They began to panic, and they knew by what they had witnessed that Jesus could perform miracles because they had witnessed him performing miracles. But one thing that they didn't know is that he could control the storm. In other words, I believe at that point, the disciples' faith may not have been as strong as they thought it possibly could be. I'm pretty sure that they seen Jesus do those miracles, but even though they saw the miracles, they didn't understand whether Jesus could get them out of the situation that they were in at that present time when they were going through the storm. So I kind of relate that to our lives. As we begin to experience difficulties in our lives, sometimes we wonder, God, are you there? God, are you gonna heal me? Or God, are you gonna get me through this storm, whatever it is that I'm going through? Lord, you're not hearing me. I don't see anything happening. All I see is the storm that I'm going through, or the waves. All I see is this tempest that's coming towards me, and all of this stuff is being thrown at me. And I'm just using it as an analogy of somewhat what the disciples were going through at the particular time. And I'm actually going to read from Matthew chapter 8. I'm going to read 24 through 26. This is out of Matthew chapter 8, and this is coming out of the New King James Version. And it says, "And behold, there arose a great tempest in the sea, insomuch that the ship was covered with waves. But he was asleep." So Jesus was sleeping in the boat. "And the disciples came to him and awoke him, saying, Lord, save us, we will perish. And he said unto them, Why are ye fearful, O ye of little faith? Then he arose and rebuked the winds, and the sea was calm. There was great calm in the sea. But the men marveled, saying, What manner of man is this, that even the winds of the sea obey him?" You know, I guess they had enough sense to know to actually go to Jesus after they seen him healing things. So I'm imagining that they was like, well, we don't know where else to go but to Jesus. He did the miracles with the healings, and he was casting out the demons. So we have to ask him, what are you going to do? Are you going to save us? You know, so I guess there was, from what I'm reading, a measure of faith that they had, but they were still afraid. So, you know, from my message last week, the promises of God. God promises you that he will never leave you nor forsake you. So even as we are going through these storms in our lives, whatever they may be, we have to stand on the promises of God and believe. It takes faith for us to believe that Jesus will get us through the storms that we are going through in our present lives at any time. Right now, you may not be going through a storm, but there will be storms that come through our lives, and we have to stand on the faith and the promises of God. You know, Jesus said even to the disciples, "O ye of little faith." He didn't say that they didn't have no faith, but he said, "O ye of little faith." You know, and they had enough faith. You know, the Bible talks about the faith of a mustard seed. So they had enough faith to actually go to him because they knew that they were in trouble. And actually, that's all you need. But we also have to have trust. We have more faith that we're able to trust that God will get us through any situation that we may be experiencing. So my message today, put your trust in God no matter what you may be going through. And I pray for you guys that you have a great week. And I thank you for watching. God bless you. And I hope to see you next week, Lord willing. Love you guys. See you next week. Have a good one. Peace and blessings.